with a couple of knives here. Now, let me start out by saying that these knives are really cool. They deserve separate videos. But a viewer, Steve, thank you very much, by the way, sent these over to me for review, and I don't want to delay sending them back to him any longer. So to solve that problem, I'm going to cover both of these in one video. I know that doesn't do justice to these knives. The other thing I've got to say by way of introduction is that I've got a helper with me today.
Yeah, it's me. I'm back.
Do you want to? There you go. So we've got Joel here with us today, and that's because...
I'm popping.
No, that's not because of that. It's because these knives are rather interesting, and I always get an interesting reaction when I show them to people. We've got a couple of John Graham mid-tech knives here. So, you know, mid-tech, semi-custom, high-end production, whatever you want to call them.
Basically, they were made by hand.
Yeah, these are... Good job, Joel. We had a whole... But just before making this video, Joel and I had a whole conversation about making something in a factory versus making it by hand. So, Joel, can you tell me... So, some of you will already know the name of these knives. Joel kind of knows the name, but... can you tell me, what does this knife look like if I hold it up to you like this?
A Rhino.
Yeah, so this is the John Graham Shorty Rhino. That's because it's, you know, a little compact version. This one, can you remember what I said it was called, buddy?
A scraper?
We were talking about the fact that this can be used like a scraper or a chisel. The name of this knife, though, is the...
Chimpanzee.
No, is the Razel GMT. So GMT, you know, this one gets a few different monikers added to it, basically indicating it's a little smaller and it's not a custom. Okay, so the technical name for this one, or the full name, is the GMT Shorty Rhino, and this is the GMT Razel GT. I have no idea what all the letters mean. I don't really care.
That's a lot of GTs.
Yeah, that's right. So those are the knives we're going to take a look at. And look, guys, these do have some similarities. They both come in at the same price, which I think is about $500, like $485 each, I think. Both of these have very functional designs, and they're, you know, and there's a lot of similarity here. They're the same steel, same materials, similar stock thickness,
Made
similar
by the same
grinds.
person.
Yeah, of course, and they're both John Gray designs. So, two things that I have to say by way of, before we get into the specifics here, that I love about John Graham knives. I've had a couple. They always get an interesting reaction from people. So Joel, can you tell me, what do you think of these knives?
They're pretty cool.
Not kind of weird?
Yeah, they're weird.
Okay. I have actually shown these knives to a couple of different friends, and the reaction is always the same. They're like, what? What is that? Why are you carrying that? They always react with kind of a confused look on their face, because they're used to, you know, these are not traditional looking knives. They look a little bit odd.
Whenever we go to a friend from the family, what knife are you carrying? Oh, that's a nice knife. And then we go today. What knife are you carrying today? Oh, what's that?
Yeah, there you go. And I don't know about you. I know if you're watching this, you'll probably react one of two ways. Either you will look at this and be like, whoa, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen, and you'll love it.
What the heck is that?
Yeah, exactly. And so, look, guys, in the comments, you can tell me whether you love it or hate it. I get that some people are going to just hate these more than anything. They're going to think they're so ugly. That's totally fine. You know, to each his own. There are lots of knives out there that you'll probably like, so just buy those. This is going to be a little bit of a balancing act, guys, because I'm going back and forth, and Joel's helping me cover both of these knives in one video when we really should be making a separate video for each one.
Yep.
But let me start off with size and weight. So I'm going to go Razel first, and then the Rhino. So I'll move the Rhino off screen just to avoid confusion for a second. So this guy is 7.5 inches overall. 7.5 inches overall, 4 9/16 closed. Okay, so that's just a little over 4.5 inches when it's closed. Grip area, we have 3 3/4 inches plus a finger choil. So you can hold the knife back here, or there is enough space here that you can choke up and hold the knife this way depending on what you're doing with it. All right. And the weight on this is 4.2 ounces. All right. So let's switch these out. Here's the Rhino. Obviously, you can see the Rhino is shorter, so it's only 7 inches overall, 2 11/16 on the blade length. Okay, 2 11/16, 4 1/4 inches when closed. All right, so that's how much space it's going to take up in your pocket. Grip area on this one is going to be 3 3/8. You can see how it fits my hand right there. Joel, do you want to show them how it fits your hand? Move it under the camera a little bit more. There you go. So if you have small hands like a 9-year-old, this is actually going to be a very big knife for you. But if you're full-grown adult, then, you know, depending on your...
It's a tight squeeze.
There you go. It can be a little bit of a tight squeeze. And it's a smaller knife, so you kind of expect that. Now, what's interesting here is, although this is the smaller of the two knives, it actually weighs more. So this knife weighs 4.8 ounces. This one only weighs 4.2 ounces. All right, so that's size and weight. Now, let me say this. I find that both of these actually carry quite well in pocket. These are not knives that I'm uncomfortable carrying. I have carried these around a bit. Again, the viewer who sent these along, Steve, said it was fine for me to kind of carry them and use them and kind of get to know them a little bit. So big thank you for that. And I find they both carry very well in pocket. And we'll talk about this again, but I really, really like the Graham clips. So as I say, we'll come back to that again in a little while. Let's move on.
I wonder what that crunchy is. I'm eating chocolate.
There you go. Joel's off camera here eating a little bit of chocolate. Okay, so let's touch on these blades a little bit. Both of these blades are 154 cm steel, which is a good steel. Both of them are ground to be very usable. I would say both of these have a really balanced grind, meaning they're thin enough to cut well, but they're thick enough to provide a lot of confidence, like you wouldn't hesitate. By the way, thinking of how you're going to use these blades, what's interesting is the Rhino, while being more of a traditional Tanto blade shape, still has that ability to do some scraping. By the way, neither one of these are going to be great in terms of, you know, using them as a defensive weapon, because the blunt tips make them not very stabby. Okay, so sure, you could do some slicing, stuff like that, but these are not designed to be weapons. These are designed to be tools, and I think they are very good tools. And I think both blade grinds are, what would you say, appropriate to be tools. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's get into some of the specifics. Both of these grinds, okay, stonewash finish, flat grind here, Razel blade shape. You can see though that this is clearly not your typical knife. Okay. By the way, when we're talking about the Rhino, again, this is very much not your typical knife. All right. It's interesting that they can achieve the same goal. So while on the Rhino we don't have the sort of almost reverse Tanto style tip, we still have the ability to use that flattened portion at the end of the knife to do this kind of stuff. All right. So kind of an interesting alternative. Of course, lots of comments have been made about the Razel blade shape. What I would say about both of these is they look really different. They're not what we're used to seeing from a folding knife blade, but guess what? Both of them work really well. And Joel, I don't know about you, let me know what you think, but I think it's pretty cool when you can make something look so different and yet it still works just as well as any normal knife.
Yeah, cool.
There you go. Joel thinks it's cool too. Of course, the Rhino blade has this swedge on top and has that bit of an upset swept tip, making it literally look like a Rhino's head. You know, I don't know, whatever you think of that. Generally speaking, I don't like knives that look like animals. I especially hate the Microtech, the one that looked like a whale. I can't remember the name of it, but generally I think that's something to avoid. This one though is not too bad. It's not so blatant of a design cue that it distracts from the overall look of the knife. Let's talk about lockup and deployment. Joel, do you want to close this one for me and I'll close this one? Can you do it on camera? There you go. Okay, so here's the Rhino. I'll flip this guy open. Do you want to flip open the Razel? Can you? Okay. There we go. Let's do the, there you go. Now, action and deployment on these, or I guess lockup and deployment on these. As you can see,
They're
both
both
of
the
these,
same.
yeah, they're both titanium liner locks. They both have an overstop. They both have bearings. I will say this, there's a difference in the detent. So the detent on the Razel is a little bit stronger than the detent on the Rhino, making deployment a bit nicer. Joel, what did you want to say?
These locks are the exact same, except here there's like little bumps, and here it's just straight. It's the same dot. There's a dot in the corner. There's those lines. It's pretty much all the same, except for this is straight. This is like all bumpy.
There you go. Good call, Joel. Nice way to notice those details. So yeah, they're very, very similar, and they perform very similarly. There's not a lot to say here, really, guys. It's about what you would expect from a high-end titanium frame lock. All right. Both are easily accessible. Deployment is easy on both. The action is a little snappier on the Razel because of that stiffer detent. But there's not a whole lot to write home about when it comes to the action. They're typical bearing pivot titanium frame locks. All right. I will say on both, one of the things that I like quite a bit is that both of these have very accessible lock bars, easy to access flipper tabs. And so, you know, I always look for that in a knife. I want it to deploy quickly and easily when I want it. Now, let's talk about the handle. Again, there are some real similarities here and some real differences. The first thing to point out is on these knives, I've had a couple people pick these up and go, you know, I don't know how to hold it. They don't, you know, it may not be completely intuitive that this clip forms part of the grip area. So your hand just wraps around that clip. And when you do that, it's actually very, very comfortable. I had someone try to kind of squeeze their fingers in here, and they were like, what is wrong with this knife? I can't get a good grip on it. Not realizing that your hand just goes over that clip. On a more traditional knife, it's pretty obvious that your hand goes over the clip, right? So if you grab this knife, you really can't mess it up. You're going to put your hand over the clip. On this, you can think, well, maybe I'm supposed to like hold it just in here or something, but that's not the case.
For me, that's how you do it.
Yeah, now Joel's hand, because of its size, fits. Does it fit on this one too? This one's smaller, so it may not fit.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. All right, so Joel's hand fits on both of these. So if you're a 9-year-old, then you don't have to worry about all those comments about the clip and your hand going over.
9 and under.
There you go. So who knows how long that'll be the case. But just wanted to point that out in terms of an ergonomic point. Both of them, I will say this, well, they feel different in hand, and I think the Rhino is just a little bit more comfortable. Both of them are very comfortable, and they both feel like something when you pick it up, you're ready to get some work done. They grip your hand, they're confidence inspiring. So I can say with both of these, they're quite comfortable. Now, I want to make one other point, I guess, and that is a couple little finishing details here. They're both nicely chamfered. This, you do get the added
black
little bit of carbon fiber there. If you switch over to this one, and I've noticed a couple of people point this out, and actually a couple of people asked me about it. So when they did the stonewash on this, the stonewash didn't get into the grooves here. So take a look, and it leaves a bit of a silver. Now, you know, maybe that was on purpose. It feels like maybe a bit of an oversight, and this is a pretty expensive knife, so I don't, you know, you can't really forgive anything, right? Every detail I've got to pick up and share with you guys, even if it doesn't bother me, and if this was my knife, which it's not, but if it was my knife, I wouldn't even give it a second thought. But because of the price of these, I think it's worthwhile to let you know about it. Also, I guess we should say, I went on John Graham's website today, and Joel, could you buy this knife?
No.
No, they were both sold out, and they only made that number. So now that they're sold out, the only way you're going to be able to buy one of these is if
you butter them
up. Butter them up. No, I don't think they're going to make any more. You'll have to actually go find someone else who bought one and buy it from them. So you'll
Or
have to,
go to his factory by hand and make one.
there you go. Maybe that would work. So yeah, both very comfortable, both fairly simple, straightforward construction. Now, the next thing I want to do is bring in some comparisons here, and I guess we'll do this separately. So I'm going to move the Rhino out of the way, leave the Razel in, and bring in a couple of other comparable knives. So these are all high-end, USA made, fairly expensive knives, similar price point anyway. Can you fit the last one in there, bud? Maybe.
There we go.
Okay, so these all just barely fit in frame. These two are going to be cheaper than this. This is going to be about the same price. And there's a, this is a challenging point to make here. But look, guys, the fact is there are a lot of high-end titanium frame locks out there. There are a lot of knives that are really, really well made. Of course, these are all made in the USA, but if you add the overseas produced knives, that becomes a whole different conversation. Now, that means this is up against some pretty stiff competition, and really it's going to come down to you have to love this to buy it, right? Can we categorically say that it's better than any one of these? Not really.
By the way, just point out this is my favorite.
Oh, there you go. Joel likes the Koenig Arius the best. All right, let's pull this out and we'll place it with the Rhino. Can you throw the Rhino in there?
This is my favorite.
Okay, Rhino incoming. Okay, so there it is. And once again, the thing that stands out to me about this knife is it's very, very distinctive, okay? All of these, maybe the blade shape on the hinderer, but for sure, if you showed like your friend or neighbor either of these knives, they're going to be like, okay, it's a nice folding knife. If you show them this, they're going to be like, whoa, that's really different and really interesting. And so really, that's what it's got to come down to. Now, there's a couple more knives that I want to show you because perhaps you like the toughness, you like the utility of these knives, but you don't like the price point. So I'll throw in a couple of other knives here quickly that are still very novel, very cool, very interesting. In fact, this is one of the most interesting knives available on the market. This is the Cold Steel 8015. And so you can see, this guy I think is going to cost you, I don't know, $170 compared to $485. That's a pretty big difference, and you're still getting an interesting, novel knife. Let's throw in one more here. Benchmade Contigo. Joel, what do you think of the regular knives? Again, here you're getting an interesting design. It's different, it's cool, and it's going to cost you a lot less than this. So I just wanted to kind of bring in some comparisons.
This is like a bird. It's got feathers.
Yeah, I guess it does. The Laird G10 has that kind of feather look to it. Okay, so overall, how are we going to conclude this? Joel, let's start with you and give me your overall thoughts on this knife. Compared to all these other knives and considering all the stuff we've said, what do you think of these two?
Okay, so these two, I don't really know. Compared to the rest, they would be like in the top three. They'd probably be like, yeah, they're good.
Okay, cool. So Joel thinks, yeah, they're good. I agree. They're very cool, different knives. And that's the big thing about these, right? All the other knives I showed you, you kind of take a look at it and you go, okay, that's a knife. It might
A
be
normal knife.
Yeah. These are very different. In the mind of John Graham, he does come up with some different, interesting stuff. And I think that's the primary appeal to these. Okay, yes, they're well made, they're functional cutting tools for sure. But if you're just looking for a functional cutting tool, there's lots of knives that are going to do that.
By the way, yesterday was Dad's birthday.
There you go, guys. So yeah, yesterday was my birthday. I don't know when this video will post. It might not post for another week. But
Monday was his birthday.
There you go. My birthday is December 30th. So if this doesn't post till like January 10th or something, that's fine. But yes, thanks, Joel, for pointing out that it's my birthday. Family's always good to do that, right? So that's really my concluding thought. Like, these are nice knives, and they're very cool, very interesting. And those are the reasons to buy them.
Yeah, they're good knives, period.
Yeah. I wouldn't say, you know, if you're looking at an XM18, you should go out and buy this instead. They're way too different. You have to be a fan of John Graham. You have to want something different and interesting that not everyone else is going to have. By the way, with both of these, you're going to know not that many people have it because it was a limited number. So if you've got one, you've got something pretty special and unique.
By the way, so it kind of reminded me of this. So let's say everyone in school was John Cena masks, and then you come to school with a boogeyman mask.
There you
They're
go.
wrestlers.
Yeah. So, Joel's trying to make the point that, yeah, if you have something like this, it's definitely something unique and different that everyone else is not going to have. And the limited nature of these adds to that as well. So, in conclusion, let me say thank you again to Steve, the viewer who sent these along for review. I love getting to check out John Graham's knives. They're so interesting. They're so cool. And I love showing them off to other people because everyone I show these knives to, gets this perplexed look on their face. And it's really fun to see people's reaction to these. Great knives. Very, very cool. If you can find some, I don't think, if you just love this and you can't live without it, hey, I think more power to you. You're going to really, really enjoy it. There's no big outstanding issues. If you're just looking for a high-end knife, sure, there are lots of options, and these are just one of those options, and you've really got to consider that value equation. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Check out my channel, Joel Cleary.
Okay, check out Joel's channel.
It's called Joel Cleary.
There you go. He doesn't do a lot of knife reviews, but he does various things. So, Joel, thank you for helping me with this video.
Anytime.
We'll talk to you soon, guys.